The data clearly indicates a correlation between these phenomena. Though further investigation is warranted, I've documented my preliminary findings in the archives. Should you wish to verify my conclusions, you'll find the methodology quite thorough and replicable. On the sun-scorched plains of Botswana, in the famous Chobe National Park, a lone and emaciated lioness roamed. Her name was Nala, and she had once been a proud and powerful member of the pride that inhabited these wild lands. Her coat glistened in the sun, and her roar struck fear into the hearts of all who crossed her path. But fate had other plans. After a brutal struggle for leadership of the pride, Nala was banished. Stronger lionesses, defending their place in the hierarchy, drove her away, leaving her alone in the harsh world of the savanna. Without the protection of the pride, Nala faced the harsh reality. She had to hunt for food herself in dangerous lands where every day was a challenge. Days without food and water took their toll. Her body became emaciated, her ribs protruded under her dull matted fur, and her stomach caved in from hunger. Every step was difficult, balancing between survival instinct and despair. She wandered along the trail where antelopes once grazed, but she didn't have the strength to chase them. Thirst and hunger were wearing her down, and in the midday heat she almost lost consciousness. The hot Kalahari wind burned her muzzle. Dust settled on her once luxurious coat, turning it into a tattered semblance of its former glory. Nala sniffed, trying to catch even the slightest hint of water or prey. Suddenly, her nostrils caught the faint smell of food coming from afar. She stopped and raised her head. Ahead, on the horizon, she could see the outline of the modern eco-lodge Savannah retreat, surrounded by palm trees and bright umbrellas. It was an oasis of comfort for tourists, with a swimming pool sparkling in the sun, and cozy bungalows. Unaware that this was a human place, Nala moved forward, driven by her survival instinct. She crossed the soft grass, carefully stepping between the deck chairs and umbrellas. The unfamiliar surroundings, permeated with the smell of disinfectants and the hubbub of vacationers, made her wary. The voices of children, laughter, and the splashing of water could be heard from afar, but thirst and fatigue overcame her fear. Nala approached the edge of the pool. The water sparkled in the sunlight, resembling a clear natural stream. She tilted her head, trying to drink, but her paws slipped on the smooth tiles. With a loud splash, her heavy body fell into the water, breaking the silence of the hot afternoon. The cold water burned her, and Nala began to panic. She could not swim. Her claws scratched the air, and her roar, full of pain and fear, echoed across the resort. She flailed, trying to keep her head above water, but her wet fur pulled her down. Her eyes, filled with terror, darted from side to side as she spun around in the pool, like an alien creature lost in the human world. Every time she tried to get out, the slippery walls of the pool pulled her back. Her claws, so sharp in the savanna, could not grip the smooth surface. Nala's roar disturbed the tranquility of the resort. Deck chairs were overturned, towels scattered, and tourists fled from the pool in panic. 3 vacationers, hearing the noise, ran closer and froze in shock when they saw the lioness floundering in the water. One of them, a man in a blue shirt, shouted loudly, urging the others to move back. The other 2 tourists, a couple of young women, backed away in fear, not knowing what to do. No one dared to jump into the water to help, despite the obvious panic in Nala's eyes. One of the tourists, coming to his senses, took out his phone and called the reception desks to report the emergency. Upon hearing about the lioness in the pool, the administrator immediately contacted the resort manager. Management quickly organized the evacuation of guests from the pool area and called rangers from Chobe National Park. The resort security guards, armed only with loudspeakers, asked everyone to keep a safe distance. Meanwhile, Nala continued to struggle, but her movements were becoming weaker. Her strength was fading, and it seemed that she was about to go under. The tension was mounting. The minutes dragged on like hours. One of the resort staff kept a fire extinguisher at the ready, prepared for any eventuality, but no one dared to get closer. Everyone was waiting for the rangers, and the air was thick with anxiety. Finally, with the roar of the engine, the rangers' pickup truck flew up to the pool. 2 experienced employees, Kovesi and Lerato, jumped out of the car, carrying professional equipment, ropes, hooks, and a net for rescuing wild animals. They quickly assessed the situation. Nala, almost exhausted, was swimming at the edge of the pool, her head barely above the water. Kovesi took a long hook to secure her position, while Lerato deftly threw a rope loop around the lioness's neck and torso. Working in unison, they began to slowly pull her toward the edge. Nala was no longer resisting. She was just wheezing weakly, trying to keep her head above water. When they reached the edge, the rangers jumped into the pool. Crovesi supported her head, while Lorato grabbed the back of her body. Wet and heavy, Nala was pulled ashore with difficulty. They laid her on a thick tarpaulin, then carefully transferred her to a stretcher. The lioness lay motionless, her breathing heavy, her body trembling from cold and exhaustion. The rangers quickly placed Nala in a metal cage mounted on a pickup truck and covered her with a warm blanket to keep her warm. They contacted the Chobe Reserve Veterinary Station by radio, warning them of the urgent arrival. The pickup truck drove off, leaving behind a crowd of shocked tourists and resort staff, who were still discussing what they had seen. On the way, Crovesi closely monitored Nala's condition, checking her breathing and reaction. Lorato drove the car along the uneven savanna trails, trying not to shake the cage. They discussed how best to provide first aid, and kept their eyes on the lioness. After almost an hour's drive, the pickup truck stopped at the reserve's modern veterinary clinic. A team of doctors was already waiting at the entrance, ready to receive an unusual patient. Nala was carried to a special table using a lifting mechanism. The veterinarians connected her to monitors, measuring her pulse, temperature, and blood oxygen levels. She was conscious but extremely weak. Dehydration and exhaustion had weakened her heartbeat. Doctors administered intravenous fluids and medications to restore her strength. They carefully examined her body, checking for fractures or internal injuries. Fortunately, no serious injuries were found. The main problems were malnutrition, physical exhaustion, and stress from being in the water for a long time. One of the veterinarians, Dr. Mafo, breathed a sigh of relief and nodded to the rangers, confirming that Nala was out of danger. The team developed a 10-day recovery plan that included regular feeding and monitoring. After receiving fluids, Nala began to breathe more evenly, and her eyes opened slightly, showing signs of life. She was transferred to a special quarantine enclosure designed for the recovery of wild animals. In the early days, Nalu was fed small portions of meat broth to help her stomach adjust to food. Her fur gradually dried, and her body stopped shaking. Rangers and veterinarians took turns visiting her, speaking quietly so she could get used to the presence of people. Nala slowly calmed down, her gaze no longer filled with panic. She lay in her enclosure, looking at the world with new hope. From an emaciated creature teetering on the brink of death, Nala became a symbol of resilience and human care. Chobe National Park became a new beginning for her. Thanks to the kindness and professionalism of people, she got a second chance. This story is a reminder of how nature and humans can work together to save a life. Friends, thank you for taking the time to read this story. If it touched you, don't forget to share it and support our channel so that we can tell more inspiring stories about wildlife.